Hello, welcome back to NVfineARTstudio. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Today I'm in the studio. I usually record demonstrations for Patreon. This is not my home. I know it's a larger place and looks like home, but this is my studio. I also run classes here, physical classes, so that's why it's a larger space. I always receive questions about my materials and brushes and paints and paper and things like that. So I'm going to share this information today with you. I usually paint on Volk watercolor paper, and this is my choice number one, but I also paint on arches, and for beginners I recommend Saunders Waterford as well. Couple of things. Volk is my choice number one because this is a thicker paper. It's a rougher texture paper and also stiffer, and it holds a large amount of water. Compared to arches isn't that thick and stiff. It's thinner and it's less textured, so it's harder to achieve dry brush marks. It also buckles more, it doesn't absorb as much paint. Saunders Waterford is also a very good paper. It's softer, it's less textured, even less textured than arches, and the texture is very predictable. It's almost like jeans. It's very geometrical. And this is something that I don't really like, but you know, it's not a big deal. Some paintings actually look really, really nice with this type of texture. Also, it's very soft. It reminds me of cotton rug instead of paper, and when it absorbs the moisture, the paint, it absorbs a lot of it and it stays wet for longer. But the paint, when it's dry, it's lighter, particularly warmer colors such as yellows and browns and oranges. They dry much lighter. This is something to be aware of when you're painting on Saunders Waterford. But interestingly enough, I would actually, if you're a beginner, I would actually recommend starting with Saunders Waterford, just because how much water it absorbs and how quickly it absorbs and how long it stays wet. Yes, you will get a little lighter paintings at the end, but you will have a longer period of time when you can think or mix, a long amount of time when your paper stays wet, so you will have time to think about it, to prepare your mixtures, to think about the mixture, how light, how dark, what kind of colors you need to use to make this particular mixture and things like that. So Saunders Waterford definitely gives you good amount of time to think about things. I have a number of demonstrations done on Saunders Waterford on YouTube, so if you're interested, please go and have a look. I'll link them below in the description. My easel in the studio, I paint on MEEDEN tabletop easel, and I use this plastic board from Bunnings. You can easily take off the easel if you need to twist or turn your painting, put it upside down, do glazing or something like that. And I usually attach it with a double-sided sticky tape. Just put it like that and it holds it. So that's that. Now my paints. I have a very basic selection of paints, just a couple of blues, couple of yellows, couple of neutrals, and a couple of reds, and that's it. So it's just 12 colors, starting with blues. These two are from Holbein, Verdite Blue and Lavender Blue. This is Daniel Smith, Ultramarine, Cobalt Blue from Holbein, Cobalt Turquoise Light from Holbein, Jaune Brilliant number 1 from Holbein, Yellow Deep, this is Gold Ochre from Winsor Newton, Burnt Sienna from Winsor Newton, Cadmium Red Light from Holbein, this is Rose Madder from Daniel Smith, and this is Sepia from Winsor Newton. So this is a very classy, very basic palette. The choice for this palette is because I can have one single mixing area, and it's much easier to keep colors, all the colors that you use in a painting mixed together, and it definitely helps with the color harmony in your painting. So I would definitely recommend having a palette with one single large mixing area. Some of you I know concerned about the price of the paints, because I usually use professional watercolors, and I highly recommend professional watercolors because there is basically no substitution to it, but they are expensive, and I always receive questions, what is the best choice to substitute them? In my opinion, Paul Rubens is really good. Because they are professional colors, but they're much more affordable. I believe this whole set of 48 colors costs around $100, which is probably cost of only 2 tubes. Don't really want to go into too much details about Paul Rubens colors. I have a couple of reviews of Paul Rubens where I explain in details why I like them and why I think they're much better than any student grade colors from well-known brands such as Winsor & Newton, for example, Cotman, or Jackson's Art, student grade colors. I'm not going to go into too much details here. Another option, White Knight paints. They also artist grade colors, but they're much more affordable. Recently I purchased a whole lot of these colors, of this paint. I was trialing these paints and I'm extremely happy with it. This is one of the paintings that I recently did with White Knights and liquid charcoal and Lunar Black and Lunar Blue from Daniel Smith. So this is a mixture basically of Daniel Smith and White Knights, and I believe they're absolutely great, they're amazing. I was really happy with these colors, with these paints. Now, also sometimes I use liquid charcoal. This is not a watercolor, but it behaves exactly like watercolor does, and it's water soluble, so I usually put a little bit in here in a spare well, and mostly use it for granulating effect. Sometimes I receive questions about if I use white. Yes, I do use white. I used white watercolor, I used white gouache. I don't really see much difference, except white gouache is a little thicker and brighter white. I don't mix it with other colors. I always use it only for highlights, larger highlights or smaller highlights, but I don't actually paint with it. But in regards to making highlights, there is no big difference between white gouache or white watercolor, but there are a few different watercolors. There are white watercolors that are transparent, and there are white watercolors that are more opaque. I believe Chinese white is the one that is more transparent, and zinc white is the one that is more opaque. And currently I'm using white gouache from Winsor & Newton. This is it. This is for my colors. Now brushes. I have a whole lot of brushes, and just because I paint so much and so many different scenes and things like that, I pretty much use the whole lot. But you don't have to have that many brushes, and you don't have to have expensive brushes. This is something I believe you definitely can save on. My typical brush would be a NVF mop brush, something like that. This is number 2, fully natural, stiff, but fully natural bristles, very fine point, beautiful brush. And this is probably the size that I use the most. Size number 2, and somewhere around maybe around 12 millimeters, somewhere between 10 and 12 millimeters. I also use flat brushes like that. This is also NVF 1-inch mixed fiber brush. Also the bristles are reasonably stiff, it's not too soft. The shape has 90-degree angle, very fine points on each side like that, and I believe it's very helpful when you want to do precise 90-degree corner or paint with the corner of your brush. I'm sure you've seen me painting with flat brushes a number of times in my demonstrations. But if you ask about What would be the 3 most important brushes in your arsenal? I'd say mop brush like that, somewhere around 10-12 millimeters. A fully synthetic round brush with fine points, such as a Skoda Perler number 12. A detailer brush, needle brush. This is from Fumu, number 12. You can go with number 10 or 8 as well. And this is from NVF. This is number 8, but unfortunately they don't go larger than number 8 brush. So that's why I recently been using Fumu much more, just because of the size. It's much more useful. It goes from a very fine point at the tip, and then you can push it. You can press it against the paper, and it goes from very thin line like that, from very thin line to thicker line, basically like that. Then I would recommend having a flat brush, mixed fiber flat brush, and also fully synthetic flat brush. Mixed fiber flat brush is very useful if you're painting architectural details or anything man-made, pretty much anything that has sharp angles and geometrical lines. It's very useful brush. And a fully synthetic brush is very helpful for highlights or lifts on the water, something like that, or just pretty much any highlights, any lifts, because it's stiff and it easily lifts paint off the paper. So this is my recommendations for the brushes. Now, about the price point for the brushes. I know natural brushes like that cost quite a bit, but recently I was approached by a brand called Fumu, and this is one of the brushes from this brand. They're much more affordable. I also did a couple of paintings on my YouTube channel with this brush, so I don't really want to go into too much details. In my opinion, it's great. It's absolutely great. It's a great substitution to much more expensive natural brush. As you can see, it has absolutely beautiful fine point. It's very soft. It holds a lot of water. It's beautiful, and it costs probably a third of the price. So you can't really go wrong with this brush. It's beautiful. It's a great brush. They have lots of different brushes on their website. I haven't tried them all, but people who did said that the synthetic brushes are a little too soft. So definitely, if you go to their website, be careful what you're buying. I am only recommending what I've tested, and I only tested. And when I actually picked the brushes for testing, I was very particular about what I wanted to receive to test. And I picked this Fumu brush, fully natural squirrel brush, mop style. I also picked this Wolf brush, also mop style, slightly smaller brush with fine point. This one is much softer than this one. Needle brush, absolutely amazing brush. I received 2 other brushes. I wasn't 100% happy with it because it was too soft. I would prefer a small round brush for details, and it was a bit too soft for my liking. It's hard to... I paint on rough texture with thicker paint for when I do details. I don't really use too much water for details, and it's really hard to manipulate with this very soft brush on textured paper. Spray bottle, something that I definitely can't live without. I use it a lot. Recently I was gifted an amazing spray bottle. This is the bottle. It's quite small. It doesn't hold much water, but it produces an amazing spray. Very fine. It covers good amount of space for this small bottle, and it's very uniform. So this is great. So even if I'm painting a large full-size paintings like that, now I still use this small bottle. I just make sure that I keep something handy, like a full jar of water, and if I run out of water, I just very quickly unscrew the top, grab some more water, and here we go again. So this is my absolutely favorite spray bottle number 1. It's absolutely great. Like that will also work. This is what I always used, but you definitely need to go through maybe 10 or 20 of these to find a good one. I just generally need to pre-wet the paper, and the paper size is somewhere around half sheet or larger. I usually use something like that. Hairdryer. You've seen me using hairdryer quite a lot. I don't really use hairdryer for my larger paintings just because they're large, and by the time you paint at one area, the other is most likely dry. But for smaller paintings, for demonstration, just to speed up time, I always use hairdryer. Some believe that hairdryer destroys the painting, destroys the paint. It does and it doesn't. So you definitely need to know how it affects the paint. Most of the time, when you paint at an angle and you do your classy watercolor style painting with layers, first wash, second wash, and again you're painting with a gradient, you're painting at an angle, and especially if you don't use granulating pigments such as ultramarine, and especially if you don't use them for granulating effect, hairdryer is not going to destroy your painting. I've noticed that it only destroys the texture if you paint flat and you have very watery wash with granulating paints and you leave them be flat to absorb into the paper and to create this beautiful granulating effect. So you can't really touch this area until it's fully dry. As soon as you start hair drying this area, the pressure of the air will start to move the granulars, and you will start destroying that granulating effect. And this is all in regards to my materials. And this is all for today. I hope my little tips and tricks and all the information that I shared today is useful. Merry Christmas everyone, Happy New Year. I'll see you in 2025. Bye.